Today we're covering all 4 of these Super Slam heroes for Silver Age. So this is going to include Pleiades, Lyath, Kayo, and then Tuffnut. And I wanted to condense all of them into one video. That way, if you are a new player who just wants to get into Silver Age and came in with Super Slam, or you're just interested in the Silver Age meta as it develops, we can just condense all of this into one video. And so we'll go through each deck today, and then we'll also have an example game as well, so you can kind of see some of the play patterns of the deck. We're going to kick things off with Pleiades. So for people unaware of how she plays, you're going to be playing these Guardian Instants, and they're going to be these auras that sit in play with these suspense counters that leave once they kind of tick down. And Pleiades is able to shuffle around the counters between them, specifically tapping to remove a suspense counter and then potentially putting a suspense counter on a different aura that you control. And then also, whenever the crowd cheers you, you're going to be making a confidence token. The confidence token just pops and it says that the next attack action card that you play, so not like a weapon attack, but an attack action that you play, it can only be defended by 2 non-block cards. So this includes armor. It's just a really good way to close things out or to push disruption, which is what this deck wants to do. So the way that this deck wins is that you are going to be playing these auras of suspense, and when they leave, they're going to give a buff to your next attack, and then you're going to put these onto either your weapon or ideally a guardian attack from your deck that has a really big on hit. So when we run through the deck here, we have cards like Boulder Drop, where if it connects for enough damage with Crush, they're going to have to put a card from their hand back on top of their deck, so they're going to have less cards to keep during their turn. Cartilage Crush basically gives a frostbite and makes the first action that they do during their turn cost 1 more. Concuss, when it's buffed up by these effects, will have the text online where if it hits, you have to discard a card. Same goes for Thump, but Thump also gains Dominate. So you kind of see how this deck wants to play. You're doing on turn, off turn, where you're stacking these auras. They sit in play, they wait to go. You can have them leave sooner with her ability. You can tap all of these between Act of Glory, Edge of their Seats, and Tension in the Air. These all have 2 suspense counters, but you could play it during your opponent's turn. Remove the counter of Pleiades, it goes down to 1. Then at the start of your turn, you lose that last counter, it leaves. So you can basically have these immediately activate if you play it during your opponent's turn. So you're able to rush the clock very quickly with this deck. It's disruptive, but it's powerful, and it can block or it can play aggro, keeping the gas pedal on when it needs to, which is something that Guardian decks usually struggle with, but her ability to play these auras and then have them leave very quickly to get that buff effect immediately just makes it so she's able to keep the pressure on. Running through the equipment, it's mainly just blocking cards. We have gauntlets for to be able to block 2. We have civic steps to be able to block 3. We have the helm. This one is nice though, because this means that even when you're ahead on life, or when you know that you'll win if you have a confidence token, let's say you have some auras that are waiting to go, you have a big attack, and your opponent's at like single digits, and you know that even if they can block 6 with 2 cards from hand, that they're going to lose. Or you're playing into aggro and you just want to make sure that your disruptive crush cards connect, you can just block with the helm, and then the crowd will cheer you, and then you'll get your confidence token that'll pop during your turn. Kind of a little spicy we're trying out is Richter Scale. The idea here is that there are some turns where you can just play an aura, and since it's an instant, it doesn't use your action point. So you can play an aura and then activate Richter Scale. This doesn't have go again, so when you do this action, it's going to be the last thing you do during your turn. So it kind of works as a setup card. The main reason why you would want to do it is that because of what happens next, being an aura you want to keep in play as long as possible, you can, with the 2 seismics, make all these 3 cost 0, which is like pretty strong if you're able to block out with no cards in hand, play Boulder Drop. I think that's very powerful. We'll have to see if that's actually like good enough, or if you maybe just want to play something that blocks 2, but it does block 1, so the Battle Warren seems good enough. Everything else in this deck is just defensive cards like Dig In, but something I didn't cover earlier that I should cover now is that using Pleiades' ability with these 2 auras of the suspense is killing me and what happens next is very good. So being able to remove the counters off of your damage auras and then keep these in play longer is only going to benefit you as the Pleiades deck. The longer that these stay in play, the more value you're getting over the course of the game. So you definitely want to try to keep these in play as long as possible, and her ability helps you do that. On the horizon is just a way for us to block 4 into the aggro deck, since we can't play things like Sink Below or Fate Foreseen. And then our sideboard is very simple. We have Crush the Weak for 5. We have Choke Slam for Azalea and Briar. And then we have Crash Down into slower matchups, or specifically like the Mirror. And then we just have a very clean AB3. So pretty simple deck overall, but we'll jump into a game so you can see how I would play the deck. We win the die roll and choose to go second here. The reason to pick second, in my opinion, is because you kind of want the tempo of the disruption. So for example, if we went first, we don't really get to do anything. You have the chance to play auras, but then the Phi gets all the tempo going second, and instead we get to open up with Red Boulder Drop. Our plan here is to arsenal the Cartilage Crush for next turn. My opponent gives the whole fridge, so we're gonna have to play on the back foot for our turn at least. We do get the option to get a confidence token though, which is gonna be pretty good. We also get access to a thump. We can think about popping the Richter scale and then setting up with the thump, but I don't really think we need to do that yet. Rising Resentment comes in. This is only chain link 1, so the on hit isn't actually active here. It's just a starter. We're gonna let this hit. Display Loyalty comes in. We have a lot more chain links to think about. We're gonna block down to a blue and the Cartilage Crush, I think. So with 3 more cards left, we can think about giving a 3 block here. It's probably safe to do so. We need to hold up at least 1 card at the end in case of its snatch, but this is probably an okay time. Another head jab. We'll go ahead and block this. We're gonna activate 5 for the Phoenix Flame. We're gonna take the 1 here. Hot on their heels. I mean, at this point, they already have 2 fealty. I want to hold 1 card in case the last card is snatch. If it's not snatch, we can put like thump in our arsenal, and it's not bad in the matchup. So I'm gonna let this connect, even though it does mark us. They already have 2 fealty, so I feel like it probably doesn't matter. The main concern though is that if they have a blue, this basically does nothing. Turns out they have the blue, so you know this is where Phi is a lot more resilient than something like Briar, for example. Briar, I think, would get a lot more penalized by something like Cartilage Crush. I don't think that Phi really has the same problem. We can think about using equipment here. I think we're just going to block out though. We need to draw an aura to combo with the thump to close the game out. They're going to come in for 4. We're going to get to block with our On the Horizon here. Seems like they're just going to pass their turn. That's pretty interesting. Maybe they're just trying to sculpt something here. Unfortunately, our hand kind of does nothing. We can send the thump, but I kind of don't see a point in doing that. I kind of wish that this was one of the 3 cost auras. We're just going to go ahead and send Titan's Fist. It at least puts them at 6. Although they get to block with the Beckoner Helm. They opt not to do that, so that's at least good for us. It means that we can send Thump, and they don't have the ability to block with the Helm, so they'll have to give a card for it. Or we have access to Cartilage Crush. I think both will end up being fine. We have 7 health to work with on. We still have the full fridge, so we're gonna go ahead and take this. Ideally, we're gonna 2 cards send the Cartilage Crush. We could also play the What Happens Next and 2 card the Thump. Although I think the Thump will probably be worse. We really need to line that up with something else. I think it's safe to give the Civics here. I think at this point in the chain, they're probably going to end up sending Emberblade. So giving the Quicken here doesn't really matter. If they send Snatch, we're going to have to block it anyway. So to kind of put them in a spot to use it here, they're going to pop the fealty for it. Okay, so we're going to take 2. This comes in for 5. We're going to go ahead and just block. They're going to pop everything. Okay, so we're going to get hit for 2, for 5 with the Emberblade. And then there's a mystery card that we don't know about. We can use the headpiece here. The headpiece here is actually pretty good. But I think we probably can use the headpiece now that I think about it. So we'll go ahead, we'll block for 3 like this. I guess I am concerned though about Snatch, although they maybe would have sent it off the Quicken token. Maybe I'm wrong. We probably could have thought about holding the Helm until we saw the last card. They're going to Phoenix Flame. We're going to say no blocks on this. And then they're going to play a second Art of Dragon. It's really good, actually. I mean, if they had then another fealty, it would have pressured lethal. I mean, we were still going to block for 3 anyway, but it would go to 3 off this instead of 5. So now we have our confidence token. We're going to get to send Cartilage Crush. So they're going to take 5 here. They drop to 1, which means that our Titan's Fist, after they get their last block out of the Beckoner Helm, will always start demanding 2 cards. They actually have a blue though, so definitely a nice payoff here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to block. I think if it doesn't pressure lethal, which this does not, we can just send We can pop tension in the air with Pleiades' ability, and then just send hammer. This would come in for 8, probably rips the whole hand. We could also gamble and just send hammer for 4, hope that they block 4, and then just leak it over with the suspense. This is basically like lunging press. I have a feeling that my opponent may not play around it, so we're going to go ahead and just take that line. It's a little bit more efficient too. All right, they end up blocking for 4. We're going to get over by 1. Sneak and lethal. We also could potentially, there's some other stuff we could have done too. We could have actually used it, potentially even that same turn with the thump. So we actually probably just missed an easier lethal line. We have to go to 1, but it's not a big deal. I mean, we guarantee it because we have the +1 on the thump, which triggers the effect. Or at the very least, we take this line, they block with 2 cards, and then next turn, all we have to do is just keep 2 cards, and then we get to send the thump with the plus effect. Next up, we have Lyath. Lyath is a very unique hero in Fab because it's the only hero that has intellect level 5. So most of the time, people kind of assume that you always just drop 4 at the end of your turn because that's in the game rules. It is technically in the game rules, but it has to do with your hero's intellect. The way that they balance this is that the base damage of everything is halved. So everything becomes much worse. So the point of this deck is trying to mitigate it by doing a lot of buff effects, because if you play buffs on your attacks, they don't lose that extra damage, because this only looks at the base value. So it looks at the number that's in the bottom left corner, and then anything that you have after that is applied on top at its normal value. You also have the ability to tap him for 2 resources and you'll get booed, and then defending action cards that you control get +1 this turn. And then whenever the crowd boos you, so whenever you activate this or have a boo effect in the deck, you're going to make a might token. And the might token is mainly how this deck plays. It just pops at the start of your turn and your next attack gets +1. Like we talked about, this does not get halved because this is just a buff that's being applied on top of the base of your attack. So the whole point of this deck is making a ton of might tokens. So we look at, just like Pleiades, we have tension in the air in this deck. We have some kind of similar cards with like Sadistic Scowl and Revolting Jester, Villainous Pose. These are just immediate buffs instead of these auras that kind of tick down and then leave. So this is just paying 2 for the +4, but on the same turn. And then Mocking Blow is like the main premier card of the deck. Because the way that it works is that the buff is applied retroactively, right? So the Mocking Blow gets halved down to 0.5 damage, but then rounded back up to 1. So it actually doesn't even lose any damage from Lyath's ability. And then if you are booed either from an effect of another card, so think something like Villainous Pose, where the crowd just boos you as part of the buff before you attack. But if you are higher health, this will also boo and you'll get the same trigger. You're going to trigger Lyath and make a might token for next turn. But then this also gets +4, and this +4 is not tampered with by the hero ability. So despite the fact that you're drawing 5 cards, you're still going to get to play this for 5 damage, right? And if you combine that with, some effects like the edge of their seats, right? These same suspense auras, or something like Cruel Ambition, where the turn before you played this made 3 might tokens, you get to mitigate the fact that all of your stuff is halved because you're playing kind of normal cards, and then it all adds up to like the same kind of damage. You're just getting that 1 extra card every single turn. Another really cool card in this deck is going to be something like Little Bigfoot, where this is going to get halved and then rounded up to 2 damage. But if you meet the condition with the 2 cards in your pitch zone, is just going to get a big old fat +6 on top that doesn't get messed with by the hero power. Everything else is kind of a marginal card in the deck. Speed of Obscenities, though, is very good. This just lets you keep on carrying over those might tokens. That's really what this deck wants to do. And then Power Play is actually a very cool card in the end game because you can put this in your arsenal. Basically, anything in this deck that has base power 1 just doesn't get affected by Lyath's power. So this just comes in for 6, which is the main goal of this deck, is trying to mitigate that debuff as much as possible. Because if you can walk around that debuff, but get to draw 5 cards a turn, then the deck is very powerful. So it kind of plays like Pleiades, where you're doing that setup kind of Guardian, send a bunch of damage in one turn, have a turn where you just kind of set up some stuff, and then you're doing that on turn, off turn, very similar. We just have some anti-arcane stuff in here. We have 38 cards on the main board, so it's your choice of what 2 defensive cards you want to bring in. Blessing of Serenity is against aggro decks that don't deal arcane damage, and then against arcane damage decks, if it's more like aggro based, like let's say like Runeblade or Icelander, you could do Arcane Polarity if you want, but in the Icelander, I'd probably prefer Oasis Respite because that way you can block like either Ice Vein Red specifically or against like Kano. Steadfast, you could do it either way, or you can play this into like Azalea if you want to be able to block more tall damage, and then you just have AB3. We get a pretty decent opener, so we're just going to get to make a ton of mites. We'll play our Edge of their Seats, and then we're probably just going to Arsenal the Sadistic Scowl and just pass turn. So they're going to go ahead and use the chess piece. Makes sense. All right, and then all that to send 6. We're going to make a toughness token though, so we can think about a couple things. The main question is, how are we paying for this? So we have 9 resources available on our turn to carry over a might, and then we can send everything else. I think that's like totally fine. I guess the question is, do we need a block with this headpiece? I don't really think so. Anything else that we may want to block with here? I'm not seeing a reason to, so I think we're just going to take the 6. My opponent ends up with 3 vigors. I mean, that's pretty good. They're going to get to block out and just have like 1 card play, sending the Bone Basher. Although I guess it's awkward because it carries over anyway, because they would have their 0 card play of just pitching off of Tuffnut, so they may end up actually wanting to keep cards here. We're going to go ahead and play the Scowl. This is where having like some kind of chess piece that could give you a resource would be pretty good, just because this would let us block with an extra card on that cycle, although we do get the benefit, I guess, of just getting +1 here anyway. All right, so they're going to get their helm triggers. We're just going to go ahead and grab our might token right now. So it's going to be a pretty good block from them. They're going to get that extra +2, and then I'm going to block out pretty efficiently, actually. And we'll go ahead and put Serenity in Arsenal. We have a pretty good setup, though, so hopefully our next hand is decent. Very, very good opener, though. Let's think on our end if there's anything interesting we can do. So we can block a lot here. I'm trying to think about specifically. Unfortunately, the Mocking Blow doesn't do anything at the moment. So we can go ahead and block like this. I get the Boo trigger. I think we could have held this zone to get the extra +1. So that might have actually been incorrect. I think we lost a point of value, but we're going to block for 2 and I guess just play the Serenity. We just want the Edge of their Seats in our arsenal. We need to kind of push over. Just kind of proving to be a little bit of a problem. And we're just going to go ahead and send in the Spew. Hopefully get some cards blocking from them. We block with the Clash card, make a toughness. We end up connecting though, which is definitely what we wanted to happen. Now we get the option to block with the chess piece, which is also pretty solid. So we're going to go ahead and arsenal our Edge. Now we have a lot of blues here. The problem is our Mocking Blows are not actually connecting for anything at the moment. They're going to come with their Strongest Survive. We're going to get to block for 3, and then we can go ahead and play Blessing for 3, so we can convert everything here. It's just more of a question of how are we actually like getting over this deck. We will have the Confidence token though, so we can push the Little Bigfoot at least, but I kind of wish that we had more riding on the Confidence token here. And we'll get to sculpt another big push turn pretty soon, but this is not great, to be fair. We'll go ahead and send this for 7. And then we're going to go ahead and play the Edge. We can Boo as well, just to get that might token in. Doesn't matter as much as I hoped it would. We'll go and play the Edge, and then we're going to go ahead and Boo off of Lyath as well. The main issue is that the Mocking Blows are just not connecting. I think a lot of this deck definitely cares about if the Mocking Blows are working or not. I mean, we can play this 2-card hand, so I mean, there is a line here we can take. I'm just trying to think about if that's actually the block we want to make. Our turn is playing Villainous Pose, pitching the red. We're just going to put the red back in deck over the blocking card. And then we're going to play the Mocking Blow. That seems okay to me, so we'll go ahead and take that line. So we're going to go ahead and put these 2 cards back in the deck. We'll get our Boo trigger, and then we'll send Mocking Blow. I'm kind of thinking we need to sculpt something with these cards. We could have kept the yellow. It's probably like a very minor misplay. But I am noticing, just due to deck quantity, that I think this game is going to go kind of long. So I'm kind of thinking about some ways to at least sculpt a bit of a final push turn. We're going to probably have to combine it with a Confidence token. They actually Clash revealing backhand, which is pretty crazy. This hand is great, but it doesn't really do anything. I mean, we're just going to send Titan's Fist. It's not necessarily the best thing I've ever seen. Kind of needed a second blue here, to be fair. We can block with the Scowl, but it only blocks for 1, which is pretty embarrassing. I think we're just going to have to take all the damage here. This is pretty insane, but I'm at least hoping that we get to deal enough damage that maybe we get to start ripping tempo here. Really need a Confidence token or something though. I mean, this is just not good. We can go ahead and play the second one. And then we're gonna pitch 3 cards to send Titansis. That's pretty insane. Let's come in for 15 though. It's a lot of damage, but my opponent's gonna be able to block out pretty efficiently, send back 4. So I'm not sure how much tempo this actually gets us. Really needed like a blue or something. Second blue means we can play the Scowl and actually intimidate away one of these cards, which I think is kind of a big deal. We actually win the clash, which is pretty fun. I guess we can actually probably benefit from the confidence token. I'm interested to see if they pay for the dig in or not. All right, so then paying for the dig in, we're just gonna get hit back for 4. Let's see if we can actually close this game out. There's a chance that we could. Our pitch stack is very good, so I'm not worried about fatiguing out at this point. So they're sending 4. We have a toughness token though, so we should use it. I'm trying to think about what we can do on our turn. I think it's probably just gonna be sending the obscenities, most likely. But this does get to block for 3, so we should take that line that we have it. We could have used the boots, but we need to save this to win the game, I think. So what we're gonna do is, we can send the Mocking Blow, it's also possible, but I think that this makes more sense. And we're gonna send this, we're gonna play the blue edge of their seats, and then we're gonna pitch to Lyath. So they're gonna block for 6. It does get over what we're doing, but we'll still establish all of this. I'm gonna make 3 toughness tokens. What we need to do here is we need to do a setup turn to play around the toughness tokens, I think. I mean, this almost did it, but I think that we're probably gonna have to block, honestly. So my opponent's gonna get a lot of value out of this. Oh, especially tapping our hero. That's actually really bad for us. So maybe we can actually play like a setup turn here. Anything about what's left in deck? They did show us 1 red Buckwild though. If they draw the second Buckwild, I think we kind of lose on the spot, unfortunately. I think about what we could do. So losing the hero power is a bummer, but we do have Villainous Pose. We can't actually take all of this, so let's think. So if we pitch for Villainous Pose, play Mocking Blow, play the Cruel Ambition, and then we arsenal the power play. Next turn we can play the power play and I'll have all of these effects popping on it. So I mean, I don't hate it. I think it works, so we can try it at least. We're gonna take the damage. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna play our pose. It's gonna get us the boo trigger. We'll play Cruel Ambition, make our tokens, and then we'll go ahead and play Mocking Blow. I mean, this is a lot of damage, but my opponent does have 4 toughness tokens. So, I mean, if they want, I think they can literally just block with 1 card, keep, 3 cards with the hero power, and we could get like hit with like Buckwild into Bone Basher. Looks like that might be the case. So we need to find a way to live, is my assumption. And I'm trying not to lose with all of the might tokens up. I mean, that's pretty unfortunate. That's what ends up happening. We do have access to the hero power at least, so I'm just gonna play Grit. Okay, so that's good for us. I mean, this is a lot of damage, but it doesn't kill us, which is what we needed. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna block. And we're probably gonna activate the hero power here. Makes the most sense to me. And then our turn is just sending power play. We really needed this with the confidence token. Maybe we should have found a way to layer that up, but I do know that our pitch stack is gonna be a lot of damage. Unfortunately, they do make the token off of it. We could have considered potentially blocking with the boots, because they end up getting to make that extra toughness. That was probably a mistake on my part. I really do want to hold the boots, but maybe that was wrong. We'll play this from Arsenal. It should have a lot of damage coming in. Maybe it's enough to win, but with 3 toughness, I'm kind of skeptical. 14 is a lot, so maybe it's enough to close it out. If they have like a 2-block or a non-block in hand, then we're chilling. We'll see if the last card is. All right, it was a non-block actually, which is pretty crazy. So we barely get there. Our endgame was kind of interesting. I think we maybe should have played some spots a little bit differently. This is definitely a more difficult deck to pilot compared to like Pleiades. Now we move into the brutes. So we start with Kayo, the reviled one. You're only gonna have 1 weapon zone. It's pretty marginal. We're just gonna play our Mandible Claw, but the cool part of this hero is that it instant speed. So anytime after you attack, you are able to tap, and then target attack action that you control gets base power of 6. And then additionally, whenever you are booed by the crowd, you make a Vigor token. A Vigor token just pops at the start of your turn and gives you a resource. Now, the cool part of this is that you are able to play cards that have very low base values, but have other buff effects. This is going to overlap a lot with Lyath, but when you increase their base level up to 6, it ends up being incredibly powerful. So a very easy one is going to be Mocking Blow. So in Lyath, it's good because its base value gets halved and then it goes back up to 1. So you don't lose any value having to play this in your 5-card hand. In Kayo, it's strong because if you have, let's say, a Vigor token that pops at the start of your turn and you have 1 resource floating, you send this for 5, you pitch 1 blue, and then with the 1 that's already floating from the Vigor, you can activate Kayo and then turn this from a base 1 into a base 6. So with that blue, you basically get an instant speed extra +5 whenever you want. So you can wait to see how your opponent blocks. If your opponent doesn't block enough, you can push it over. If they block with their entire hand on it because they know it's about to come in for 10, then you can just arsenal the card. And you can even do this to bluff in a couple of certain spots where you actually have like a red in your hand that you want to arsenal. You send something your opponent is low enough that they have to overblock because you might have the blue, and then you just arsenal your red card anyway. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with this hero. Equipment's very standard. Similar thing to Beckoners. This is going to come up a lot. Knucklehead, you will never activate. This is just a block 3 equipment because you can block for 2, and then the temper lets you block again for 1. Barkbone you can block with and then roll a die, and sometimes you'll get the resources you need just to push with a couple extra cards. I'm trying out Horns of the Spies both in Lyath and in Kayo. Just to have access to booing, kind of similar to playing the other headpiece in Pleiades. This is going to come up for all the reviled and revered heroes. To run through the rest of the list, some cards that are worth noting are going to be cards like Flex Strength. So we want cards with like lower base values, but that have a payoff. So Flex Strength is very clearly based around this, where when it gets that 6 base from Kayo, it's going to get an additional 3. So in total, you're going to pitch 2 blues, and that this is going to come in for 9. So it's like a 3-card 9. It's not as good as Mocking Blow, but it's still pretty decent. The blue is like just as good. That's kind of the cool thing with these cards, is that the red and the blue kind of end up being the same a lot of the times because of the fact that they're just going to have their base just blanket hit 6 regardless. The only cool thing though is that like you can combine them with barraging beatdowns, which I'm including in my brute list today because of how aggressive the format is. Decks like Briar and Fi are not going to be blocking, and same goes for Azalea. So if you're able to play something like Barraging Beatdown, even if you're not intimidating their whole hand, but if you're just playing something that kind of warps their blocking a little bit, but then specifically is going to let you get like 1 card worth extra +4 damage, unless if they block with 2 things, those decks aren't going to want to block with cards. So trying to slow down the game a little bit so that you can grind it out, I think is a good incentive, and it'll help you catch up a lot of the damage into the aggro deck. So we're on red and blues for that. This deck plays a little bit more mid-rangey, so we have some on the horizon. You can kind of grind the game out a little bit. We have Prime the Crowd. This just helps you get booed, because booing for the Vigor token is really important, or if you're behind on life and you need the boo effect for Mocking Blow. Very similar to Lyath, we have a lot of these same cards. We have Revolting Jester and Villainous Pose. Same goes for our blues down here. We have Instill Fear. The cool thing though is that Reviled Brute, instead of Spew Obscenities, you get Offensive Behavior. Just same deal. It's just a card where if it hits, you make the 2 tokens. But Overload's pretty cool in the end game. If they don't have enough armor to block, then you can play this and then turn it up to base 6. It has Dominate, and then when it hits, you're going to get Go again. So cool end game closer. I guess some other cards to note are going to be looking for a scrap because you have so many Mocking Blows. This just lets you get a 1 for 5 with Go again. Strongest Survive is good disruption into the aggro decks, and then Sirens of Safe Harbor is just like another good mid-range card that kind of lets you like survive a little bit longer, which is what this deck kind of needs to do. For the sideboard, we have less sideboard cards and more sideboard equipment. So we have AB3, but then I'm also trying out the Mighty Bone Knuckles, specifically for decks that have lower base total life than you. So think about like Riptide and Icelander, and you're on the play, and you can just freely activate it and make the 3 Might tokens going first. I think running into the other matchups, I think I'd probably just prefer the +2 from the Beckoners, just because there will never be a question if I can, actually get the value out of it. But there's probably gonna be some games where I'm just always unable to activate the Knuckles. But I want to try into those matchups. So if I'm on the play against Icelander, I'll play the Knuckles and just get +3 for going first. And then into slow decks where you need to like sculpt an endgame to push over, I'm trying out Fleetfoot as a way to give Mocking Blows Go again. So like, if you're playing against a slow fatigue deck, you can send the Mocking Blow. They block for, let's say, like 6 or 9 on it or whatever, and you still have, let's say, 3 cards in hand and a card in arsenal. You can just give it Go again with the Fleetfoot Sandals, and then let's say send another Mocking Blow and then bump that one up to 9. So I think that you may end up having to play these for the slower matchups or trying to block you out. It lets you just kind of like sidestep 1 turn in the game, which is what's going to end up being really relevant in terms of grinding the game out. We have Arcane Polarity against, the fast arcane based decks. And then I'm trying out Cheap Shot. This one's kind of interesting to me. I want to try this specifically into some aggro decks where you need to race and you basically need to put them at 18 life. When you're playing against decks like Briar or Fi, the games are so fast, and if you're just off by 1 or 2 damage, you're just going to lose the game every single time. But if you're able just to, on that final turn where you send the Briar or aggro deck, insert aggro deck, right? You send them down to 2, and then they say no blocks because they keep their hand that deterministically kills you, but you block with the headpiece, get booed, and then play cheap shot when they tap out or whatever. Or you just force them to lose their card, and then you're back in the game and you have your own turn again. I feel like it's kind of interesting. This may be too cute, but I wanted to include it because I am interested in brewing around with this. We're playing into Katsu here, so our game plan is pretty straightforward. We're just playing raw efficiency. We opt up playing the Knucklehead in this matchup. I just want more blocking equipment, mainly just because of all of the kind of like scaling on hits of the deck, and whenever we need to actually like stop something from connecting, I want access to having more armor to do that. You do get the benefit too of after you block some of these breakpoints, the equipments like the Beckoners can still block for 1 and like future weapon attacks. So Be Like Water, we always need to block this card. I mean, we're blocking anyway because it's turn 0, but this one is probably like one of the most important ones to be blocking. And we're gonna block all the way down to the Flex Strength. This is the best card in our hand. We just need basically 1 blue and something else to turn this online. So we're just hoping that they don't dump the whole hand here, and we get to hold on to this. It wouldn't really make sense for them to dump their whole hand. And so we get to keep a pretty strong card here. So we get all of this. We're gonna opt to put this in Arsenal probably, or the Overload. Probably not the Overload in the first cycle. They can just block with 1 card and then the 3 equipment. So they end up blocking for 9, even though this doesn't push anything. This hand is not bad. I guess we're gonna go ahead and play our Gesture and then probably descend the Sirens if I had to. Gotta make a gut call here. I mean, we can send the offensive behavior, but I mean, this is like the most damage. We could have played the Barraging Beatdown, but it's not a brute attack, so this doesn't convert to anything. Yeah, all right. Looks like they're posturing for their big push turn. We're gonna have to posture really defensively. And we also have a 4 block as well. It's actually a pretty solid hand overall. If we want to, we can end up keeping 2 cards, getting really greedy, and then trying to send like Revolting Gesture, popping Strapping, and then trying to hit 2 resources so we can activate the Kayo effect. It's like pretty insanely greedy. I probably shouldn't take that line, but that is something we could do depending on what the rest of this hand looks like. They come with Spinning Wheel Kick. We're gonna need to block this for 4. I don't want them just discarding a card to go get another one and playing it for 5. We have an easy way to cover the breakpoint, so they're gonna push over with Legacy. So we're still looking at 3 cards from them. We may end up just having to block with everything here. So they're popping all of their equipment. Interested to see what this line is going to end up looking like. I'm kind of interested if they're going to use Mask on something here. This is just for 2. We already let the Katsu trigger go through, so at this point there's no point in blocking these like raw vanilla go against. They've already gotten their tutor effects, so we'll wait to see if there's anything on this chain that actually has an on hit that we should prioritize blocking out. So they use Mask and they use the chest. The chest is naming this as Rising Knee Thrust. I'm trying to remember the combo line. I want to say it's Blackout Kick. I really do not remember for the life of me. Either way though, because they played the Crouching Tiger, they've broken the combo line for the Spinning Wheel Kick. So this doesn't have the +1 and it doesn't have the recursive ability to put it back on the bottom of the deck. So okay, it is Blackout Kick. So I mean, it's not a bad turn, but I mean, we get to keep everything here if we really want to. We can't block out and do nothing. We can gamble on the Revolting Gesture and using the Bark Bone. That might be a little bit greedy though, but I feel like holding it probably makes more sense. We can combine it with something else. Just send this, it demands a whole card. If they don't give us a card, we get a Mind to Vigor. So, but all their equipment's gone, so they use their big push turn. They definitely still have some good cards left in deck. I mean, we haven't seen any of the Surging or Whelmings yet, so they still have a lot of good on-hit quality. So we're not out of the woods, but there's a lot of explosiveness in the armor suite, and all of it's gone now. They're actually gonna let this hit, it looks like. Very good for us. So we're gonna arsenal our Gesture and then see what we're looking at here. This hand is fantastic. This hand is really good because we have the Vigor, so even without the Strapping, we can basically play everything here. We are probably just gonna end up saying no blocks if I had to guess. We really wish we had a blue, so that way we can, you know, get that extra +5 off the hero power off of Kayo. I mean, we could just lights out on the next turn. We can also consider, oh, this is really weird. They're opening with Rising Nithra. So it's probably, if I had to guess, it's probably Razor in hand. They took damage to do this. This is very weird to me. If it is Razor in hand, can we block in a way that plays around Razor? Because we could just shut down the whole turn right here. I mean, if we do this, this seems pretty good. I'm about to find out that there is something that's about to blow me out of the water. I'm gonna feel like a complete idiot, but I feel like this is like really telegraphed Razor to me. And we just have the armor suite available to stop that. So we just got the time walk, basically. I mean, it came at the expense of our armor, but it's a lot of damage we didn't take. And my opponent's at 11, which means that actually Mocking Blow would be online regardless. So we're just gonna pop Strapping and just hope that we can just rip resources. We have the 2 resources, which means that we can play the Gesture. We can play the Mocking Blow. We actually have the trigger active, and then we can give this +5 because we can take the base from 1 to 6. That's pretty crazy. So this is actually 14. So my opponent needs to give minimum 2 cards if they want to live at like 1. Give us 6. Yeah, we're just gonna go ahead. We're just gonna rip this. They're gonna take 9. They go down to 3. The problem though is that this hand sucks. This hand's really bad. I guess we get a block here, and then we're at 12, so we're probably gonna have to keep 2 cards and send the Strongest survive. They have already played 1 red 100 wins, so I'm probably inclined to let this hit because we need to save cards, and they can't play a red one for 4. So we're gonna let this hit, wait to see if there's a better on hit. I think our goal here is that we want to block with the on the horizon and then keep the 2 reds to send the Strongest survive for 8. So this is going to send 4. Perfect for us, right? We get exactly what we want. We did have a blue on top of the deck. Just a little unfortunate, but I mean, this hand is still fine because of the Vigor. This comes in for 8. Demands 2 cards from my opponent and also still carries the on hit. So I'm assuming that they'll be able to dodge the on hit if they block with the 2 cards, but you know, there is a world where potentially like the last cards they're left with are their blues, which are not tall enough to get over the on hit. My hope here is that this seals the deal for us in terms of this game. All right, looks like we're getting a full block. That's very good for us. Looks like the hand wasn't super functional and they just want to go next on it, save the health. I guess it makes sense, but I mean, we're going to be sending a lot on our turn, so it looks like we're going to play our Villainous Pose and we'll play our Instill Fear, hoping that should be enough. I mean, I'm trying to think here though. It's kind of tricky. I kind of wish we had another blue because that way we could actually pressure this for the full 6. Maybe my opponent plays around it like it's going to happen, although it's not going to, but this is where KO can be pretty good, is you can bluff stuff like this, right? Because your opponent should probably assume that maybe you have the resources to do it and not just lose the game, but we don't actually have it here, but we get to bluff a little bit. So we get to bluff that we're going to give this actually +5. I mean, this is pretty crazy. If this comes in, if we have the blue here and we get to put this to base 6 and put this up to 10, my opponent just loses on the spot. But all right, looks like they're kind of playing around it. Not quite sure. Maybe the hand wasn't functional. Maybe we intimidated away their only good card, but we get to put a D-React in Arsenal. They pass back to us. I think it's kind of over for them. We have Mocking Blow. We're just going to start chaining some crazy turns here. This is going to get put up to 10. So my opponent, once again, needs to block with like 3 cards minimum. They need to block 8 if they don't want to lose on this turn. We're just going to pitch into it. And then next turn we get Mocking Blow again. So I feel like we're in the driver's seat here. If anything, they just get proactively fatigued, where since we're sending so much damage with single cards, they just run out of deck. Because if we send 1 card and then pitch into KO's hero power and put this all the way up to 10, they block with 4 cards. We only lose 1 card from our deck. Just that kind of math means eventually they run out of stuff to do. They block for 7. We're going to put it up to 10 here. This deck definitely works when it's ahead. The Mocking Blow is very powerful. It's like the biggest power card in the deck. That's why we run all the copies. Everything else felt pretty smooth so far this game. I mean, mainly it was just an issue of having some hands that were just not resource efficient enough, just needing extra blues. But overall, yeah, I'm very happy with how this deck plays. And then finally, to wrap things up, we have Tuffnut, which is ironically the toughest nut to crack of all of them, because he has Intellect 3. So we talked earlier about Lyath having Intellect 5. Tuffnut means that you're only drawing 3 cards per turn. The trade-off is that Tuffnut is able to pitch the top card of the deck into the pitch zone. If it's 6 or more power, you're going to get cheered, which is going to make a toughness token. Toughness tokens are very different than the rest of them. The rest of them pop on your turn and give you some kind of benefit. The toughness tokens do give you benefit, but they pop during your opponent's turn. So during your opponent's turn, your toughness tokens will break. And then the next action card that you defend with is going to get +1 defense. So if you make 3 toughness tokens, then 3 of them will pop during your opponent's turn. The first card you block with, let's say you were to block for 3, is going to block for 6. So he's very defensive. You're able to block out and just pitch the top card of your deck. This does kind of warp the deck building a little bit though. So we have the normal stuff going on with the equipment, gauntlets, to get cheered whenever you want. But then we're trying out some different stuff. So we have Overbearing Presence because you are able to pitch the top card of your deck, which then lets you activate the chest piece. And then you're gonna be able to make 3 Vigor tokens. You're also gonna have a Toughness token from Tuffnut, pitching the top card of your deck if it's a 6. And all that can line up pretty well if you get cheered during your opponent's turn to make a toughness token, or via a card, let's say like Tough Smash Up or Dig In. If you're able to get a toughness token during your opponent's turn, like if you're able to create one and you have one in play, then you can use these new brute legs, which are just going to let you block for 3 instead of like, let's say for 2 with the Blade Beckoners. Our weapon of choice for the deck is going to be Romping Club, kind of similar to Rock and CC. You're able to block with your whole hand, pitch the top card of your deck. Most of the time it's going to be yellow, which is just going to let you send 4 every single turn. It's obviously not as good as 7, but it's the trade-off you have to make. And then the deck itself is all just going to be basically yellow 6s. We have a couple misses in the deck. So we have a miss in terms of resources because Old Leather and Vim, I think, is just too good not to have as a miss in the deck. So if you ever need like 2 resources specifically to send your Romping Club and you hit this, it's kind of an L, but this deck is very reliance heavy regardless. But this card is really good because if you pitch the top card of your deck, let's say you just grab your yellow 6 off the top, you're going to make a toughness token off of Tuffnut, which is going to put this up to 7. And then when it hits, you're going to make both of them. It's just really good value. And then everything else is a more safe line. This is like the only resource miss in the deck. You should always expect to get 2, or every once in a blue moon, you'll get 3 resources off of Wreck or Romp. Everything else is a yellow 6 basically, except for a barraging beatdown, just because once again, just kind of need to keep up with the aggro decks. If you draw this in your hand, you can play it and then send Romping Club for 7. But this could end up being another, let's say like yellow 6. I think there might still be one more that we can include here. Everything else here is a yellow 6. They all block for 3. Really nothing super interesting going on here. The only thing I think of note is Disarm. If you have 3 toughness tokens at the start of your opponent's turn, this can block for 6, which can force them to lose a card, which is really good into the aggro decks. And then Buck Wild you can play on offense if you're forced to just play your 3 cards plus a card you pitch, or you want a little bit more go again. Buck Wild will do what you want it to do. Comeback Kid can also be a nice way just to get a crowd cheer, but then also have like a good damage turn. We have some agility generators if you are forced to play your hands, because sometimes people will try to sidestep this deck by just blocking out and then forcing you to do something with your 3 cards plus your pitch card. You need to be able to have some go again or some ways to do something powerful. Your sideboard is mainly just AB, strapping, polarity. Polarity is going to be, I think, in almost every single Silver Age deck. Red barraging for aggro just to keep up the damage. Disembody for illusionists or other aura-based decks. And then a cool one here is actually Ravenous Meat Axe. So you can play this, let's say, into aggro decks where you just need that extra +1. Because the Romping Club is only coming in for 4. I'd be kind of worried about playing this into more fatigue-based decks because this actively fatigues you as the Tuffnut. But I think this is pretty cool where you can just, let's say, block for 9 and then pitch the top card of your deck. It's like a yellow 6. You make your toughness token off of Tuffnut, and then you send your Meat Axe. Your Meat Axe draws and discards off the top of your deck. It hits a 6. You get to send 5. So in essence, your total value is, let's say, like 9 from blocking, 1 from your Tuffnut activation, and then 5 from your Meat Axe. So you're looking at, let's say, like a 4-card 15. It's pretty good, actually, when it all lines up. So when the deck is like kind of functioning properly, it's a very slow, grindy deck, but it kind of plays a little bit methodically. I mean, it's very on rails. It does one thing, and if you deviate, it starts to implode a little bit. But for what it's worth, it is kind of a fun style of brute. Playing into Bravo here, pretty simple game plan. Like, we're just going to be blocking, trying to efficiently send back Romping Club. I am concerned about fatigue for sure. I'm hoping that we can sculpt some powerful endgame hands that hopefully get around this issue. We're going to go ahead and grab our toughness token. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we could do here. I think it's probably just going to be sending the old leather and Vin. This comes in for 7 with the on hit. I guess we could have taken the chance to use the overbearing presence, carry over those resources. Between both these cards, it makes more sense to put comeback kid in the arsenal. I was just going to play crash down and pass. We'll get a card in our pitch, and I guess we're probably just going to send the Pound Town, and then we'll discard from hand. Make a might token off of this. We'll come in for 6. All right, now we got some toughness tokens to expend. They're coming in for 15 though, and it's dominated, so that's a lot. So we're gonna lose a card. It's not really gonna matter because we're just gonna put it back on top of the deck, and we're just gonna put the agile windup on top. Maybe we get to make an extra toughness token. I guess we'll see. We reveal a 6. Do we want to sink it? Probably not. We're gonna need to generate some more toughness tokens, so I guess we'll take it. We'll have to put the agile windup back on top of the deck, and then we'll go back to us. Really wish I had a vigor, because the vigor would actually let us convert the agility. We don't get to convert the agility, unfortunately. We will go ahead and I guess probably send the comeback kid. It makes more sense here. It's just better rate, and we get the additional cheer, which means we get another toughness token. We got stranded with cards, so we should try to convert them the best that we can. And they're gonna play another crash down, so it's back to us. We kind of need some more of our go again to show up here. It hasn't shown up yet, unfortunately. We get a toughness token in the yard. I guess we'll go ahead and make 3 vigor tokens. And in that case, we might as well just send the dig in for 6. We're gonna block for 3. The cool thing here is that, you know, we get to get a lot of blocking value out of the boots. And we also have the disarm. So, I mean, this is gonna be pretty crazy. They're gonna lose a card from hand. But I mean, we're gonna end up taking a lot of damage. It may not actually be enough to live. Stack the helm before the tough leather boots as well. So we get our toughness token, and I'm getting that extra +3. We do lose our hero power though, so that's definitely a problem. We're just gonna go ahead and send 6. We'll discard our Wrecker Romp, make an agility, but it's not looking great for us. This deck is very aggressive. It's a block at the Crash and Bash, pretty solid. Now we finally draw the go agains. It's just probably gonna be a little bit too late. My assumption is that we're probably dead on this turn. We'll see how much this comes in for. This comes in for 9. We can only block for 4. Yeah, that's the game. Oh, and they have pummel too. All right, it was never close. It was never close. So we have good toughness generators, but they kind of need to line up a little bit.